getting tired of hearing that, think about how my sister feels. Getting. That's how we talk. I'm finally reading Catcher in the Rye. I've been told by several of my friends that it's a good book, and they all really like it. So I'm over halfway through, and I'm just now starting to like Holden Caulfield. And this is why I like him. I tweeted that I was going to say why I like him. It reminded me of a certain movie, if you will, and his sentiment. I like his sentiment. The best thing, though, in that museum was that everything always stayed right where it was. Nobody'd move. You could go there 100,000 times, and that Eskimo would still be just finished catching those 2 fish. The birds would still be on their way south. The deers would still be drinking out of that waterhole with their pretty antlers and their pretty skinny legs. And that squaw with the naked bosom would still be weaving that same basket. Nobody'd be different. The only thing that would be different would be you. Not that you'd be so much older or anything. It wouldn't be that exactly. You'd just be different, that's all. You'd have an overcoat on this time. Or the kid that was your partner in line the last time had got scarlet fever and you'd have a new partner. Or you'd have a substitute taking the class instead of Miss Eagletinger. Or you'd heard your mother and father having a terrific fight in the bathroom. Or you'd just passed by one of those puddles in the street with gasoline rainbows in them. I mean, you'd be different in some way. I can't explain what I mean. And even if I could, I'm not sure I'd feel like it. I was reading that, and thinking about Night at the Museum, and thinking about the truth in that. Like, you go to the museum, and sure, sometimes the exhibits change or whatever, but the overall museum vibe does not really change. I live really close to DC, so I could actually go to the Smithsonian and see some of those Smithsonian things whenever I want. So that's a cool thing about living in DC. And if you have never been to DC, you should come to DC, and I will be your tour guide. I can't really guarantee how much you'll actually learn from me, though. That's a statue. That's also a statue. I think that guy's a president. I got my next Netflix, and I'm going to be watching it tomorrow. Ahem. Greg Fokker, Ben Stiller, is ready to pop the question to his girlfriend, Pam, Terry Paulo. When his proposal is thwarted by a phone call with the news that Pam's sister is getting married, Greg realizes that the key to Pam's hand in marriage lies with her formidable father, Jack Burns, Robert De Niro, and the upcoming wedding is Greg's big chance to impress him. But for a guy who usually resorts to dry wit in stressful situations, Greg is suddenly shooting blanks with Jack, a rather imposing figure. As Greg bends over backward to make a good impression, his weekend at the Burns home turns into a hilarious series of disasters. I can't believe this came out in 2000. I turned 13 in 2000. Yeah, I saw it in theaters. I remember that. But it's been a long time, and I'm watching every Ben Stiller movie that I can think of, and then I'm probably going to go back and find all the ones that I have not thought of, and I'm also watching every Owen Wilson movie that I can think of. My Netflix. Oh, my Netflix. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'll put a link to the sidebar if you are not following me on Twitter, but ever since last week, I have been saying lots of really random crap to Ben Stiller, just because that's the way that I am, if you know me. But last night he tweeted a picture of the clouds in Africa, because he talked about them being pretty, and then I'm sure a bajillion people were like, we want to see them. So he posted a picture of the clouds, and I looked at it, and I just started crying. Like, seriously, So I made the picture my desktop wallpaper, and I hope that's allowed, because every time I look at it, it just makes me remember how great it is to be a part of a world that has amazing things like that. Also, if you follow me on Twitter, I've become so addicted to Twitter recently. I got a Formspring account. Ask me questions. I'll put a link to that in the sidebar as well. And you can ask me anything you want. I'm trying to see how embarrassing it gets, because if I start to get really embarrassing questions, it's going to be super fun. I'll shut up now. See you Tuesday. Do you have a message for the watchers?